Let's have a word now with David McKelvey, former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector. He's also CEO of TMI and My Local Bobby. He is from Epping. He was at the protest and he's got plenty to say about what actually happened. David, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks very much for joining us. You're local to Epping, I understand. So tell us what you make of this business of the Essex Police escorting, as they put it, the people from various different left-wing organisations into what you might call the lion's den.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't at the protest, Mike. I actually drove through with my family on the way to a restaurant in Epping, but. You know, when I drove through, you had lots and lots of locals, 500 plus local people who were peacefully protesting at that stage. And we just drove through. There were no issues. It was all peaceful and fine. I then monitored what was going on live stream on YouTube and could see what was going on. And basically you had this group of Antifa, clearly the police, Essex police, had information that they were turning up, because they met them at the police station, met them at the railway station, the train station. And then they escorted them up, walked them up, which is quite a journey. It's 10 to 15 minutes walk from the station into the vicinity of Bell Hotel. They were about 400 yards away. They surrounded them, looked after them, protected them. And unfortunately, at that stage, some of the women from the initial protest outside the Bell Hotel had walked down towards the council offices to obviously protest outside the council offices, and that's when the goading started effectively. Right. And you then saw what happened. You then had both sides, throwing abuse at each other, and that became violent. And then the police put them onto 3 marked carriers and drove them away from the scene. Yeah.
So I mean, it's all very strange, isn't it? Because the police chief, Ben Julian Harrington, says that they didn't drive them from the station, but they kind of, in quotes, escorted them from the station. I mean, how does something like that happen? In your experience as a former police detective, chief inspector, do the protesters get in touch with the police and say we're coming? Do the police just happen to notice that they've arrived? I mean, how does it actually work?
Well, you assume they received intelligence that this, political group were going to attend and turn up. They all had the banners. They were all prepared. They, a lot of them had masks on, so they were, they were on their way to this protest. So, there were options available to the police. That's the first thing. And you've got to remember, I think you've mentioned it already, BJ Harrington is the ACPO lead for public order for the whole UK. Yes. And so he is probably the most experienced, or the person who, policing looks to for, policy and strategy. In this case, someone, and I'm not saying it was him, it was probably someone, a lower rank to him, has made a dreadful error. Yeah. This was a peaceful protest. These were local people who were protesting about something they felt strongly about. Right. And unfortunately, as a result of Antifa being escorted up to that protest, that then led to the violence that occurred afterwards. And so that was in my opinion, an error of judgment, and it would have been good if they'd admitted it. Unfortunately, they made it worse because initially they denied that had happened.
Well, exactly. That's the problem. So they were caught out in a lie. And then yesterday, at his press conference, he said that the decision to escort them and to then drive them away was made at the sort of, street level, if you like, by people on the ground, which would suggest that he was not involved in it at all, which seems to me to be wrong, given how high profile this particular demonstration was, and the fact that, news media was all over it like a rash. You would think that he would have wanted to be, I think they call it, Gold Command or something like that. You'd think on a day when it's going on, he would be working and he would be saying to people, you make sure, whatever you do, whatever decision you make, you talk to me beforehand.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You would have expected there would have been a goal group, and that it would have been dealt with at a very, very senior level. With Chief Constable, I would have expected personally. What you did see from watching, the live stream was that I felt very sorry for the officers on the ground. Yeah. They clearly had instructions, because you saw people attacking them, and they weren't taking any action. You know, ordinarily you'd grab them people, and surrounded them, arrested them, and dealt with them. But they were literally being attacked. The vans were being attacked, and they weren't doing anything. And it makes you wonder whether or not there had been instruction from above, instructing them not to take action at that stage, which potentially may have been a good thing, because that may have excited it even more than it actually was.
Right.
But it was I think a huge error, walking those people, escorting those people up from the station. And I think also the early use of riot equipment wasn't, it sent the wrong message out to the local people who were protesting.
Exactly. I think couldn't agree with you more. David, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. David McKelvey there, former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector.